It's been nearly 2 decades since I left my teaching career behind, and yet one student lingers in my memory, instilling fear that time hasn't dulled. His name was Eric, an enigma wrapped in the quietude of his own world. Initially, I harbored concerns for him, suspecting perhaps troubles at home were the root of his withdrawn demeanor. These suspicions led me to eagerly anticipate meeting his parents during a school event, hoping for insights. To my surprise, they were a delightful couple, equally baffled by Eric's reserved nature and contemplating a possible spectrum diagnosis, though no tests had been conducted yet. Eric's school life was solitary. He preferred the company of shadows and silence, often found on a secluded bench or sketching intricate designs in the playground dirt, a world away from his peers. His isolation was broken one day when a gang of older students, led by a notably imposing bully, decided to target him. The scene unfolded rapidly, the bully's intent to humiliate Eric with a basketball, thwarted by an unseen force that sent the ball careening back with devastating effect. I witnessed this from afar, disbelief rooting me to the spot, certain in that moment that Eric was no ordinary child. Following this incident, Eric became an untouchable figure within the school, his presence alone enough to deter even the most curious of insects. The school's staff, myself included, whispered tales of odd occurrences linked to him, fueling a mix of fear and fascination. Eric's journey through school was marked by a profound event during a 9th-grade science project. His fascination with the anatomy of a dissected frog was unlike anything seen before, yet the aftermath of that class plunged the school into a nightmare. Eric vanished along with his project partner and several scalpels, leading to a frantic search that ended in a discovery too horrifying to comprehend. The school was thrown into lockdown, and I found myself monitoring security cameras, witnessing Eric's unsettling calm amidst chaos. His confrontation with law enforcement ended in tragedy, his powers turning their own weapons against them. As the last surviving witness to his wrath in the teacher's lounge, I confronted him, imploring him to understand the gravity of his actions. Eric's subsequent incarceration seemed to offer a reprieve, his demeanor unchanged over the years of my visits. Yet the calm was shattered by a late-night call, revealing Eric's escape and the deaths of 2 guards. His nondescript appearance made him a ghost in the crowd, his whereabouts a question mark hanging over my existence. Now, as I sit to share this tale, I do so with a heavy heart and a warning. Eric, if by some chance you read this, know that my actions were guided by a hope for redemption, not betrayal. To others, I can only advise caution and vigilance, for the world now holds a being of unknown intentions and extraordinary abilities. As the sun rises on a day marked by uncertainty, I find myself reflecting on the years that have passed since Eric's escape. The silence that followed his disappearance was as unsettling as the storm that preceded it. No news reports, no frantic searches that reached the public eye, just a quiet acceptance of the inexplicable void he left behind. In the ensuing years, whispers of his presence have surfaced like ripples on still water, unconfirmed sightings, inexplicable phenomena, stories that border on the edges of urban legend. Yet, for all the rumors, Eric remains a specter, a question mark in a world unequipped to understand him. My life, too, has been irrevocably altered. The peace I sought in retirement, the quiet days spent in the garden or lost in the pages of a book, are now tinged with a constant, underlying tension. The doorbells ring, an unexpected shadow cast across the window. Even the simple act of answering the phone, each moment holds a breath of apprehension. Could this be the moment Eric decides to re-enter my life? Despite the fear, there's a part of me that longs for closure, for an understanding of the path he's chosen since that fateful night. Has he found a semblance of peace in his unique existence, or does he wander the world, burdened by the weight of his abilities and the actions of his past? I've taken precautions, of course. My home is now a fortress of sorts, security systems and measures in place to protect not just myself, but anyone who might find themselves in Eric's path should he ever find me. And yet, in the quiet moments of the night, I find myself questioning if any measure could truly safeguard us from a force as potent and unpredictable as Eric. The truth is, I don't know what the future holds. The world has changed in countless ways since Eric's disappearance. Technology advancing, societies evolving, yet the mystery of his existence remains a constant, unyielding shadow. To those who might one day cross paths with Eric, I offer this advice. Approach with caution, but not with fear. There is more to him than the chaos of his past, a complexity and depth that the world was too quick to fear. Remember, behind the extraordinary abilities and the actions that have defined him in the eyes of many, there is still a person, one who, like all of us, is searching for his place in this world. As for me, I continue to write, to share my story in the hope that it might offer insight, or perhaps a warning, about the delicate balance between fear and understanding. And so, with a cautious eye on the horizon, I move forward, one day at a time, into an uncertain future. As the news of Eric's escape spreads, a palpable tension grips the community, reminiscent of the unease that once shadowed the halls of the school where I taught. The quiet dread that I had lived with for years, the fear of Eric's capabilities, now feels like a harbinger of something far beyond my worst imaginings. Despite the passage of time, the memory of his calm demeanor as chaos unfurled around him is as vivid as ever. It's this memory that fuels my concern now, not just for my own safety, but for the unknowable consequences of his newfound freedom. In the days following his escape, there are no reported sightings, no leads on his whereabouts. It's as if he has vanished into thin air, a ghostly figure haunting the edges of our collective consciousness. The authorities are on high alert, but their efforts seem almost futile against someone who defies the very laws of physics with his mere presence. The lack of information only adds to the growing fear, speculation running rampant in the absence of concrete details. I find myself reflecting on the years Eric spent incarcerated, the visits I made to him in prison, where he always appeared so detached from the world around him. I wonder now if those visits were a comfort to him or simply a reminder of the isolation that had been a constant in his life. The thought that my decision to turn him in, to end the immediate threat he posed, might now be a catalyst for something worse haunts me. Did the years of confinement only serve to deepen his resentment, to hone his abilities in ways we can't yet comprehend? Amidst these swirling thoughts, a plan begins to form, born out of desperation and a deep-seated responsibility I feel for Eric. I can't shake the feeling that there is still a part of him, however buried, that might remember the kindness and concern I tried to show him, that might still be reached. Despite the danger, I feel compelled to try to find him, to somehow bridge the chasm of fear and misunderstanding that has widened over the years. I start by reaching out to contacts I still have within the educational and law enforcement communities, seeking any scrap of information that might lead me to Eric. I pore over social media, looking for patterns or anomalies that might suggest his presence. It's a long shot, but my efforts are driven by the memory of the boy who once sat quietly drawing in the dirt, a reminder that beneath the layers of fear and power, there might still be a chance to reconnect. As I delve deeper into this search, the world around me seems to hold its breath, waiting for a sign of Eric's intentions. Reports of unexplained phenomena begin to surface, objects moving without apparent cause, strange electrical disturbances, fleeting glimpses of a figure that matches Eric's description. Each incident a piece of the puzzle I'm desperately trying to solve. And then one evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across my living room, I receive a call. The voice on the other end is one I haven't heard in years, yet instantly recognizable. It's Eric, and his words are a mix of confusion and clarity, a hint of the young boy I knew interwoven with the complexities of the man he has become. "Mr. K," he says, the familiar form of address sending a shiver down my spine. "I think we need to talk." The line goes silent for a moment, and when he speaks again, there's a weight to his words that feels like both an ending and a beginning. I'm tired of running, tired of being afraid, but I don't know how to stop. His admission is a crack in the facade, a glimpse of vulnerability that I hadn't dared hope for. It's also an opportunity, perhaps the last, to make a difference, to help steer Eric away from a path of destruction and towards one of understanding and redemption. As I set out to meet him, the outcome uncertain, I am driven by a belief that within Eric there remains a spark of humanity, a chance for change. It's a belief that has cost me dearly over the years, but as I navigate the quiet streets, it's all I have to guide me. The story of Eric, the student who once filled me with fear, is far from over, and I can only hope that in its next chapter, we find a way to turn fear into forgiveness, isolation into connection. As I make my way to the location Eric specified, the city seems unusually still, as if it too is holding its breath, awaiting the outcome of this unexpected reunion. My mind races with possibilities, each more unpredictable than the last, given the extraordinary circumstances surrounding Eric's life. Yet amidst the whirlwind of thoughts, there's a singular focus, the hope of reaching out to Eric, of finding a resolution that veers away from the path of destruction. Arriving at the designated spot, a deserted park that once thrummed with the laughter of children, I find Eric standing alone under the dim glow of a street lamp. His silhouette is both familiar and jarringly different, a stark reminder of the years that have passed and the events that have unfolded. As I approach, the air seems to thicken, charged with an unspoken tension. "Eric," I start, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's been a long time." He turns slowly, his expression unreadable in the low light. "Mr. K," he replies, his voice carrying a mixture of emotions I can't quite We stand in silence for a moment, the distance of the past years stretched out between us. Then Eric takes a deep breath and begins to speak. His words are a torrent spilling out in a rush of confessions, fears, and revelations. He speaks of his time in prison, of the isolation and the anger, but also of moments of clarity, of understanding the depths of his actions and their consequences. As he speaks, I listen, realizing that this moment is the culmination of years of uncertainty, of fear, and of hope. Eric's story is not just one of power and fear, but also of human frailty, of the complex journey towards self-awareness and redemption. And then, just as I begin to believe that we might find a way forward, Eric's demeanor shifts. He pauses, a look of confusion crossing his features. "But you know, Mr. K," he says, his voice taking on a chilling calm, "I've realized something important." I tense, unsure of what to expect. "What's that, Eric?" He smiles, but it's not the smile of understanding or remorse. It's something else, something colder. "I've realized that I don't need to run or hide, not anymore." Before I can respond, the world around us begins to change. The ground trembles slightly under our feet, and the air grows denser, almost palpable with energy. Eric's eyes glow with an otherworldly light, and I suddenly understand the true nature of the situation. This was not a meeting for reconciliation or redemption. It was a demonstration of power, a declaration of independence from the constraints of society, from the expectations of normalcy and morality. Eric had not reached out in search of forgiveness. He had done so to show that he was no longer the frightened boy in the playground, nor the misunderstood youth in prison. He had transcended, become something else entirely. As the realization hits me, the park around us transforms. Trees bend without wind, shadows dance without light, and the very fabric of reality seems to warp at Eric's will. I stand, rooted to the spot, as Eric turns to face me fully, his smile widening. "Thank you, Mr. K," he says, his voice echoing with a power that vibrates in the air. "You've always believed in me, in my potential, and now I'm ready to show the world exactly what that means." With those final words, Eric steps back, disappearing into the shadows that seem to embrace him, leaving me alone in the transformed park, the silence heavy with the weight of what has just transpired. The twist, the revelation, is that Eric's journey was never about escape or redemption. It was about evolution, about becoming a force beyond human understanding or control. As I make my way back to the now alien familiarity of the city streets, I'm left with a mix of fear, awe, and a profound sense of loss. Eric, the student who once filled me with fear, has become something beyond my or anyone's ability to influence or contain. The story I had hoped to write, one of redemption and reconciliation, has taken a turn into the unknown, leaving me to wonder what place there is in the world for someone like Eric and what his newfound freedom means for the rest of us. The end, it seems, is not an end at all, but the beginning of a new, unsettling chapter in the saga of Eric's extraordinary life, a chapter whose pages are yet to be written. Thank you for listening to my channel.